Now, supply chain issues has been one of the things that has been affecting the NEO's deliveries. I mean, this is a concern which led even the CEO of NEO inviting all their suppliers, or almost all their suppliers, late 2022, trying to address the supply chain constraints, or the, of course, shortages of parts from suppliers that are used to assemble the NEO cars. I mean, a couple of times last year we saw one of the models in NEO, like the ET7, who of course did not deliver as much due to, of course, the casting parts, which were of course short at a point in time last year. This led into, of course, us seeing, of course, this model not delivering as much vehicles as they thought they would deliver due to this. So this is a concern, or it has been a concern. Now, ladies and gents, today we read wonderful news of saying that NEO, ladies and gents, just signed a strategic partnership with one of the biggest casting parts supplier producers called Wenken. Now, Wenken, ladies and gents, we read that, of course, they are one of the biggest suppliers when it comes to casting parts for EV cars, which obviously it is quite good to see that NEO, of course, signed, of course, a partnership with this big company. Now, this strategic partnership that we just read about today, we read that obviously the Wenken will start supplying NEO, or plans to start supplying NEO with, of course, these casting parts from 2025. Yes, there are parts that obviously Wenken is already supplying into NEO, but at a close range, or Wenken plans to, of course, bring a factory closer into NEO's factories in Hefei, which obviously will make it possible for Wenken to easily supply parts into NEO. Now, this 5-year partnership for Wenken and NEO is definitely going to, of course, ease the supply chain constraints even in the future, because you will know that by 2025, not only will NEO be selling their cars, but they will already be selling their sub-brand, namely Alps, which you know that NEO plans to start delivering, or producing and delivering that model, or that new sub-brand model next year in 2024. So this is a good partnership. This is something that shows us as investors that NEO is indeed preparing to, of course, make this supply chain constraints issue to fade away completely, which is something that is good, because it will definitely bring a huge boost into their deliveries. Now, before we forget, the also, you already know that this video is just an entertainment video and not a professional financial advice video, and I would really appreciate if you can just hit the likes button if you are enjoying, or if you do enjoy the content that I'm giving you about NEO partnering with a company that is called, or with a casting parts company called Wenken, which is something that is, of course, it's good news to those that are investing into a NEO stock, especially those that have been investing in the NEO stock for some time, as they know that supply chain constraints has been the one thing that has been delaying or making NEO to deliver lower deliveries than the actual deliveries that they expect. So without wasting any more of your time, yes, we read that NEO has partnered with Wenken on a 5-year partnership, which will entail Wenken to bring closer, of course, their factory, or sort of like build their factory closer to NEO's factory, so that they can easily supply them with casting material. This is something that is incredible and something that is interesting, especially knowing that obviously NEO is concerned when it comes to delivery or supply chain constraints like casting materials, especially to some of the NEO models, has been an issue, especially the year 2022, which is why we even saw the NEO CEO even going to an extent where he invite all of their suppliers to come in a meeting and try to address, of course, production issues, delivery issues, and supply issues, which is something that obviously this year, of course, we are hoping for the best as NEO this year. It's already planning to double sales when compared to the sales they generated in 2022, and that is the sales of over 122,000 vehicles. Now, Wenken is not the only partnership that, of course, we read that NEO, of course, signed this month. As you know, that NIO also signed a partnership with a company that supplies Tesla with parts, and called the Ningbo Group, which obviously that company that supplies Tesla will also be supplying NIO with NEV parts, which is something that is incredible, and something that indeed it is making us to see that NIO continues to make the supply chain to be stronger, so that at least we don't have issues like the issues we saw back in 2022, or where we see, of course, NIO failing to deliver as much vehicles they should, due to these supply chain constraints, or due to some of the parts not getting into the NIO factories on time. So this is something that, to get to see that NIO continues to strengthen their supply chain, it is something that will make them deliver more vehicles. It is something that, of course, will make them to not have the issues which they were having, or they continue having, of supply chain constraints. So when I read this news today, my mind was blown away by this, because I know that with this, especially with Wenken, we know that obviously by 2025 NIO will be sorted in terms of course, the casting parts of the parts that they use to assemble their cars, which is something that is incredible, because then NIO will be able to produce more cars, and more cars will lead into more revenues will lead into NIO growing in terms of revenue, which is something that we've been saying, of course, in the years. NIO continues to grow, though there have been the supply chain constraints. When you look at the revenue, or checking the NIO's revenue, you and me can definitely agree that this is a company that continues to grow. We continue seeing NIO reporting record breaking, of course, revenues, which is something that it is good, something that makes the NIO investors like me and you to continue loading the boat, increasing our holdings into the NIO stock, because one way or the other, this is a company which is just set to do very well. Otherwise, with all that, guys, I just thought to just give you this quick updates about the partnership which we just read of NIO and Wenken, which was not only the partnership that we read about NIO, but there was another one which, of course, we read about, or on the 16th they also did a partnership with the company that supply Tesla with parts, and of course that is Ningbo Group, which will also be supplying NIO with parts. So that is something that is incredible, and it is important that as a new investor, you know that NIO is doing their utmost best to make sure that the supply chain constraint issues that they had previously might be fading away completely. In fact, as the NIO CEO said around December of 2022, indicated that, of course, supply chain constraints issues are expected to completely fade away by the end of the first quarter of this year, which is something that is incredible, because then we know that, of course, with supply chains constraints out of the window, NIO will deliver more vehicles, which will lead in NIO generating more revenues. Otherwise, with all that, guys, I make tons and tons of stock market investing videos, and if you think that this video was amazing, please don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. And once you subscribe, don't forget to hit or click the notification bell, so that at least you get notified by YouTube every time I drop a new content. Otherwise, that's all from me, and I wish you nothing but the best in your stock market investing journey, and God bless you all.